If you saw my Season 1 prediction video for Tekken 8, you'll know I went 1 for 7. Even by baseball standards, that's a pretty bad batting average. So let's see if I can improve things for Season 2. Here are the characters I feel could be in Tekken 8 come 2025. For the first character, I'm probably going to seem like I'm swinging for the fences and flailing. However, I think the character makes a lot of sense. I'm referring to the second Kunimitsu. Towards the end of Tekken 7's life, she was a top-flight character and people genuinely seemed to like her, so I think she makes a lot of sense. Now don't give me the crap she can't coexist with Yoshimitsu, as that isn't true. They coexisted in Tekken 7, so why not here? Also, while there will be more than 3 characters in this list, we already know who the first DLC character of Season 2 is, thanks to the announcement at one of the last big events for Tekken 8 in 2024. In that trailer, we saw a massive missile with a lipstick mark on it, and that's a trademark of Anna Williams. So I'm just predicting who could slot into the 3 additional slots. Also, one of my theories of alternating between man and woman has now been disproven, as the capstone to Season 1 was Clive from Final Fantasy XVI, which is a great addition. But with the streak of alternating between man and woman for each new DLC character having ended, it means the doors are now open for anyone to appear at any time in subsequent DLC releases. I just think the second Kunimitsu makes a lot of sense, as she's well liked, she's a bit hard to play, but once you kind of figure out what her kit does, she's honestly a lot of fun to muck around with. Couple that with how much more aggressive Tekken 8 is compared to its predecessor, and I think she's just a great fit. I do, however, think there are some characters who have likelier chances of making it than she does. We'll cover them in just a second. But I would absolutely love to hear your predictions on who will appear in Season 2. Mention them in the comments section. Another character I think is probably going to appear at some stage in Tekken 8 Season 2 is Marduk. He was previously data mined, so we know he'll probably appear at some point. It's just a matter of when. At one point he was a top tier character in Tekken 7, so chances are high he'll show up in Season 2. Again, he's a rather aggressive character, and aggression is the name of the game for Tekken right now. So from that standpoint, he'd be a good fit, even if Tekken players are a bit sick of the man at present, because of how beastly he was in the previous game. If I was to hazard a guess, he'll probably show up towards the back half of the season, so likely character 3 or 4, though I think as the third character he's likeliest to turn up then, as I feel like we're now going to get lots of guest characters over the lifespan of Tekken 8, probably 1 per year. I also feel like if that's the case, them being the capstone of each season is a good idea, as it'll probably get people really talking about Tekken outside of the FGC circle, which Bandai Namco should really encourage, because fighting games need to inject more new blood where possible. This is a topic I'm going to cover in another video though, as I feel there's a lot EVO could do that would really make the fighting game community a lot bigger. Don't get me wrong, the FGC is doing well at present, but it could always be doing better. Either way, I feel like Marduk is pretty much a lock at this point, and we're going to discuss the next character, who I also feel is going to be locked in for a Season 2 slot. The next character has some rather unsavory nicknames in the Tekken community. Some people call him Fuck You Raw, others call him Fuck Your Mom, because both sound like Fahkumram. Bad jokes aside, along with Marduk, this guy was also data mined, so that's pretty much a confirmation he's going to appear at some stage, though things can always be moved around. Just look at how different Season 1 was from the leaks. Leakers can either be fed misinformation deliberately so that things are actually a surprise, they might have faulty information from their sources, or they might only have data mined files, which can always be elaborate red herrings to throw them off the scent of what's really going on. But there's a reason this guy has the Fuck You Raw nickname. It's something I've mentioned a few times in this video and will probably mention a few more. It's aggression. Fahkumram has that in spades. It even comes across in his way over the top tattoos. I think he's probable for the next season, though we'll just have to wait and see. For my fourth prediction, I'm going to discuss my first guest character on the list. I think there's a high probability we get an SNK guest character. A lot of people have speculated it'll either be Terry Bogard or Rock Howard. I think we're probably getting Rock for a couple of reasons. For one, we already got his biological father, Geese Howard, in Tekken 7. I don't have access to him from that game, so enjoy the King of Fighters 15 gameplay. I'm also not good at using him, so feel free to laugh at my scrubby gameplay as well. But Rock just makes way too much sense. For one, we have Fatal Fury City of the Wolves launching in late April, so there'd actually be some synergy from that alone. Remember how Harada-san did post on X that guest characters are determined based off who have current games, and who the fans want. A lot of people have said since Clive got announced, there's no way we're going to get Tifa Lockhart in Tekken 8 now. I don't think that's the case, because the posts I'm bringing up are direct responses to people harassing Harada over Tifa months ago, but given Bandai Namco and SNK have at least some form of a working relationship, that means Fatal Fury, Art of Fighting, and KOF characters are all fair game. So why do I feel like Rock makes more sense than Terry? For one, Rock is the main character for City of the Wolves. Gauro Mark of the Wolves, which I've reviewed previously, was supposed to be the end point of Terry's story and the beginning of Rock's. Since Rock was intended to be the next face of Fatal Fury all the way back in 1999, City of the Wolves will conclude that story, but I imagine it'll set up future titles in the franchise, as SNK will want to keep it around as a pillar. Also, you know it's going to sell relatively well. Also, the point of guest characters is to get people to try out the game the character is appearing in, and to also hopefully check out the game the character comes from originally. Also, despite both being fighting games, Tekken appeals to a wider demographic than Fatal Fury does, so chances are SNK will get more of a boost from it than Bandai would. But hey, maybe Season 2 for Fatal Fury will feature a Tekken character. It'd be a fair trade. Plus, we know for a fact we're getting Chun-Li and Ken from Street Fighter as part of Season 1 of Fatal Fury, so that's interesting in and of itself. Also, Rock would be a guest character for Tekken, since his adoptive father, Terry, is already in Street Fighter 6, and I imagine Capcom wouldn't be all that happy if the guest they paid for is also appearing in a competitor's product. So honestly, Rock would be a great get, and both parties would benefit, which is the kind of thing you want in a collab. Anyways, let's move on to the next character. Julia was the first character I listed off in Season 1. We all know how that turned out, as the only correct prediction I made was Lydia Sobieska, who is one of my mains in Tekken. I don't personally play Julia in Tekken 7, as you can probably tell from this gameplay. However, one of my close friends does, and I imagine, should she appear in Tekken 8, he'll probably be super giddy about it. I just think Julia makes as much sense to include as Anna, given the fact legacy characters sell DLC like hotcakes. She is also one of the most popular ones. This makes her a safe bet to appear during Tekken 8's life cycle at some point in time. Also, during Season 2 is generally when a game starts falling off in terms of player count, so including some legacy characters like an Anna Williams or a Julia are just safe bets to get the player base back, and usually the legacy players stick around once they have their foot in the door. They aren't like the casuals who just pick up a game either because it's the hot new thing, or because a guest character has their attention. So Julia is a safe choice that will bring some players who either dropped the game out of boredom back in, or she'll bring in some new players because they like her cute and bubbly personality. Watch me be wrong 2 years in a row though. Let's move on to one of my personal picks. Hopefully, I get lucky with this one. Yeah, there's a reason I said getting lucky a moment ago. It's because I'm yet again including Lucky Chloe. What can I say? I have a thing for bubbly and cute characters. Some will say this is me huffing a lot of copium. But hey, I said the same thing about Lydia last time, and look how that turned out.
Tell me when I'm telling lies!
A lot of people dislike Lucky Chloe for whatever reason, and I just don't get why. But I will say this, I want her included in the game because she's something so vastly different from the rest of the roster. The closest characters I can think of to her in terms of having a lot of dance-like rhythm to their gameplay are Lily and Azucena. Basically, remarkably few characters on a rather stacked roster at this point in time. Given Bandai has indicated Tekken 8 will last for a decade, it wouldn't surprise me if we wind up with over 70 characters if that's the case. If the roster becomes that large, that basically means you're going to have to include characters that people hate at some point. Then again, people seem to have a love-hate relationship with Eddie, and he was the first character of Season 1. Which surprised me at the time considering you go for fan favorites at a later stage in a game's life cycle, when the player base starts falling off. Either way, just because she's a unique character with an interesting fighting style, I want Lucky Chloe included. I very much doubt she will make the roster until at least Season 3 though. I'm not really sure who to include for a second guest character, so I'll go with a relatively generic answer, which would kind of fit given Tekken 7 included Negan from The Walking Dead. So I think there's a possibility history will repeat itself and we'll get an out-of-left-field guest character to close out the season. If you can think of any specific pop culture characters who'd fit, let me know in the comments section. It can be from any form of media. In this case, it'd just make sense for Bandai to do it, as they can then bring in an audience that would otherwise not give a shit about fighting games. They could also get goofy with it. Anyways, let's move on to a more serious pick. People love Bob full stop. Again, Bob was a character who made the list last year, so hopefully I'm not wrong this time around. Big Bob would sell the season pass alone. We also have a little reference to him in one of Tekken 8's stages, so we know he's still kicking around somewhere, flipping burgers though. I low-key wonder if someone on the dev team is a fan of the show Bob's Burgers. Hey, maybe Bob Belcher will be the guest character I referred to a second ago. Either way, I could see Bob making the roster at some stage, I'm just not convinced he'll make it in Season 2. But for continuity reasons, I'm putting him here. If he shows up, I'll laugh pretty hard, as I just included him as a joke, really. Roger the little boxing kangaroo has very little hope of actually showing up. However, he was included in the leaks for Season 1, so I'm including him for that reason alone. To be honest, I'd love to see him included, as I love when Tekken gets weird and wild. However, given Roger's notoriously wonky hit and hurt boxes, he'd be a very hard to balance character, and since Tekken 8 is aimed at the esports crowd, the weirder characters have a lower chance of showing up than they did before, which is sad really. Either way, he'd be a fun inclusion, and he'd be a nice nod to past Tekken entries, which I think would move DLC like crazy. Also, who wouldn't want to troll their friends online with a kangaroo? Basically, this has as much chance as happening as a Clay Fighters reboot. Not a snowball's chance in hell. Though maybe it'll happen when Tekken 8 is towards the end of its life, just not Season 2. For the last character prediction, I'm going with what feels like a pretty safe bet. Armor King. A lot of people want this character, so Bandai would be epically stupid to not include him. Plus, the leaks did indicate he was a likely candidate. However, there is one problem. King is already on the roster, and he's damn near identical, at least in terms of moveset, meaning a lot of people would probably have similar reactions to when SNK announced Team Orochi for the King of Fighters 15. That doesn't mean it can't happen, just the justification seems a little bit suspect to the more casual audience, as Armor King would appear to just be a reskin of regular King. But those who know the Tekken games well would be mega excited for this. Plus he'd get players who main him to buy the game, which is kind of the point of DLC characters in the first place. You want people who are interested in the game but didn't buy it at launch to buy in because their character finally made the roster. I think this has a moderate chance of happening, though I think we'll probably have the character in Season 3 or 4. as Tekken 8 would be a rather mature product by this point in time, and the player base is likely to have fallen off hard by that stage. We'll just have to wait and see. So who do you want to see in Tekken 8 Season 2? Sound off in the comments. This video was made available to my channel members first. To get early access to videos and exclusive content, hit the join button or the link in the description. Thanks go out to my current channel members, R. Campbell and Dani Boy. Now why not check out my previous predictions video for Tekken 8 and laugh at how poorly I did. At least I used some logic to reason out my inclusions. Until next time, keep blazing that trail.